guys, it's Lisa back with another video for you for Lisa Wise Designs, and today we're going to continue in our series on the Fall Crate and the Fall Mini Album. If you're just joining us midway through this project, don't worry, you can catch up. Look down below in the description and you will see a link to my Etsy shop. In that Etsy shop, you have a choice. You can pick up the kit. That's everything you see here to make this project, from your chipboard, your cardstock, pattern paper, all the little goodies you see here with the twine. Or you can pick up the tutorial only, and you can use your stash projects, and you'll get a full color tutorial with that. So, where we left off was we have our crate built and decorated, and now we're working on the mini album. And we put the mini album together. We've got the front completed and the back and the elastic, and we need to decorate the front. This is kind of the best part to me. I think a lot of people like to decorate, well, I shouldn't say a lot. It may be about 50-50 of the people that like to decorate versus people who like the construction part. My mother and I are exact opposites. She loves the construction and I love the decorating. So what I am doing now is I am taking my Distress ink and Vintage Photo, and I'm going all around all of my pages. You're gonna see this project front, back, sideways, every way that you can turn this project is going to be seen. And since we're not using a black base, I think it really helps the look of this project to ink around all the edges. You can see on this side it's been inked everywhere without the pattern paper, and this one is not. So it's just personal preference. See, I even turned it backwards and inked right here on the edges where everything was put together, just like that. So that's personal preference, but I think it needs it. And what other housekeeping items do we need? We're going to start at the top of page 14, but as I was looking at this last night, this piece on the top is really bothering me, and I think I need to mat it. So it's a 1/2 of an inch, so I'm going to cut a strip that's 3/8 of an inch by 6. So this is not in your cutting guide, but I think I'd really like to do that. So I would just pick something with a small pattern to it, because it's not going to make sense to get something large because it's a really small area, like a stripe or a dot. So I'm going to go with these stripes, and I'm going to cut a strip. I'll turn my trimmer right here. I'm going to cut a 3/8 of an inch strip by 6. So I'm just using some pattern paper that's left over after I've done the majority of my cuts. And we'll see how this looks. So I haven't done it yet, so I might hate it, but I really think it needs something to kind of help pull that together. So as always, I'm going to hit it with my Distress ink. There we go. I really think when you're dealing with pattern paper that you really need to distress it, because you see that white outline. Not necessarily so with cardstock because it's dyed all the way through, right? But all this pattern paper has to be printed on white, so you're always going to have those white edges. So, yeah, I really think, yeah, I really like that. You could do those small fall leaves, and there's a couple of different plaids in there, and then there's that ever popular dot, if you have enough dot left over like we did on the front of the crate. So there's lots of things to choose from here. Here we go. Yeah, I like that. So you'll have to let me know if you think that yours needed that too. Needed something to kind of bridge the gap here. All right, there we go. So what else do we need to do before we move on? I think that's it. I think that's all the notes I had given myself. It's pretty bad when you have to give your own self notes, right, of what you need to take care of. Okay, so in your kit, you had a second file, a PDF file, or you had a separate sheet of paper if you bought the actual physical kit. And let me show you. It is the Impossible Card template. So all you're going to do is you're going to cut around that big black square right on the black line. Right? That's all I've done so far. Just cut that out. So you're going to cut out a sheet of paper that's a 5 by 5, and all of this is, yeah, we're starting on page 14. All that's on 14. So this is where we're going here. Excuse me. Let me get a drink of water. I'm talking too much today. So I'm going to put that template over the front of my cardstock. You're going to need probably 3 paper clips. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to kind of line it up. Line it up. I really have been talking too much today. So you're going to have a little bit of room here and here, here and here. Just line it up as center as you can, and just paper clip it. Put a couple on the top, at least one on the bottom, and kind of anchor that in place. So the way to check this, if you are printing it out to make sure it's going to cut correctly, is you should be right at 5.5 inches tall, and the middle piece right here should be 2 3/4. And if I move it from the middle piece to the top, it should be 2 3/4. So then you'll know that it printed correctly. Always print actual size, not fit to page, if your printer gives you that. But if you got the kit, this is already in there for you. And it's a little bit longer than it is tall, but that's okay. We're really concerned about this because this is where we're going to fold it, and we want to make sure that's folded in half. Okay, so we've got the trees are showing on the back because I wanted the green to be the front. We've got our template ready. Grab a pair of scissors, preferably one that's, longer. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to cut right on the black line, and I'm going to stop right here where that horizontal line is. I'm just going to cut it as straight as I can. You can do this on your trimmer, of course, but it's pretty easy to do with scissors and stop right where that black line is. Okay, and flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I made this template in Microsoft Excel, and of course, I kind of did it by hand, and I've tested a few times, so forgive me if it's not exactly right, but I have tested it quite a few times, especially in the north to south region here. So now that you've got it cut, and you're checking to make sure you got it all the way to your horizontal stop lines, and you can take your paper clips off. And we're done with this. So this should tell you a little bit about what we're going to do. This piece is going to fold up. This piece is going to be folded to the back. So what we're going to do on our pattern paper piece is this is going to be folded up. We're going to line it up with the bottom. If we cut it all the way to where we should have, it should line up well. If not, you can always trim a little more. And this piece is going to flip to the back. And this is what it's going to look like. And in a perfect world, if we get it centered exactly, this lines up and this lines up, and then this pops up. So let's do that with our pattern paper. Okay. So right now it looks like a W. Oh, Lisa Wise Designs. So it looks like a big W. So this centerpiece, we're going to fold right here in the center. Now, don't tear it. If you feel like it's going to tear, just take your scissors and trim a little bit further to get right in the center. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it all the way down to the bottom. And if we cut it all the way correctly, it should work out exactly right. And I see I got a teeny tiny tear right here, but that is okay. I am fine with that. I'm going to get my bone folder. So just take your time. I'm kind of rushing it a little bit, I guess. Just take your time. It'll be fine. You take a breath. I just got home from work. I guess I'm a little hyped up still from the day. So forgive me, I'm gonna push this back up. So this right-handed piece on this score line that you've got started here, you don't need it to go all the way across, but where this is connected, you've already got a line. You're gonna flip this over. So it should look like this. And then this piece comes up. And in a perfect world, like I say, these match up and this matches up. Just like that, like a little pop-up. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so distress ink. once again, all the way around the edges. So in my first sample, I went all the way around the edges, even the centerpiece. And this is going to be a really unexpected element in your album, especially if you're giving this to someone as a gift or as a treat. They're going to be like, what? How does that work? How did you come up with that? So of course I got this idea from May video. May made it about, how long ago has it been? Has it been a year ago since she was making some impossible cards? And thought they were so cool. And I made one then, I think it was 6 by 6. And I kind of kept that idea in the back of my mind for a while to transition that into a mini album. I thought that would kind of be neat. So it's like, okay, now's the time. All right, here we go. Done a pretty good job. Let's see, now I've got everything turned around. Here we go, like that. So I did start this way, but I want to flip it around because I want my trees not to be upside down. So when I glue it down, it's going to be glued this way. Make sure I hit it everywhere. The only thing worse than me forgetting to ink a piece is when I ink half of a piece and I put it down. I'm like, well, that was not the plan at all. Okay, there we go, looks cute. So this is going to be our centerpiece for our first panel we're opening. So I'm going to open this, I'm going to open the top up, and I'm working on the top left panel here. So you're just going to center it to the space and simply just glue it down just like that. Just making sure, if you use the same sheet of paper I did, that your trees are facing you and they're not upside down. So I'm just going to make sure which way I need to glue one more time. Okay. Can be a little fiddly here. Give us a little time to glue, please. Art glitter glue. I want you to be a little straight. At least eyeball straight. There we go. That's pretty good. Cute so far. So the other pieces I had picked out for this, and we are now at the bottom of page 14, is I cut some strips. One is 3/4 of an inch, one's 1/2 of an inch, just of whichever type paper that you love. And I really like these gourds and pumpkins, and I kind of did not cut straight off the bottom of the piece. I wanted to make sure it made sense since this was a little bitty strip, and I kind of cut some off of it until I could get up to this piece right here, if that makes sense. So you can kind of see some of these little gourds and stuff. So I am going to trim this down. Right now this is 5 1/2 or so. And what I want to do, let's see, I definitely want to trim this side off because I don't want to cut off my little board. You do not know how big of a step that is for me to try to cut without using my trimmer on something like that. I'm always like, no, I have to be exact. So all I'm doing is putting a little fishtail in it. And I'll show you the best way to do that. I'm gonna start here. I need it to be a little shorter. So I'll tell you what I'm starting with. I'm starting with 4 3/4. And what I'm doing is I'm gonna start eyeball center and come up about 3/8 of an inch or so. And cut it, and then I'm gonna cut from the corner to where I left off on that center cut. And that should, in theory, give you a pretty dovetail on the side. I was trying to think of the word where one side looks like the other. Yeah, my brain is fried today. It's kind of funny. Let's see. Symmetrical. Thank you for whoever's screaming at the screen. I heard you. So this next one I want to be a little bit shorter than that one. So I think I'm going to start at 4 1/4. My line here. So I'm going to start about 4 1/4. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut them in about 1/4 of an inch. This is the smaller piece in the center. make me a cute little dovetail, ink it, and do it something like this. So let's see how this looks. Okay, like this. Line this one up as so. So what I'm going to do to help me get lined up exactly what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and put my sticker here. So if you go to your sticker sheet, we're looking for the one that says I love autumn. Right here is right above where the truck was. It's a little rectangle. And I'm just going to hit it with the residual ink that I have left here. And I'm going to kind of line it up at the bottom where these kind of come together. It just happened to fit in that area. Sometimes you just have these things that happen like that. You're like, well, I didn't plan it, but that really does fit really well there. So now you can kind of see how you want to eyeball your strips. You want them closer together or closer to that top, or if you want to try to make them, you know, right in the center. So I'm going to kind of put the same amount of space between them and just glue them down. It's a very simple way to use your pattern paper to bring more color and more interest to your project. And you're not adding a lot of bulk to this, because we have to be careful about how many layers we're putting on this, since you've got so much that's folding one on top of the other, and the only gusset that we have is on the top. We don't really have one on the sides. So let's see. I am going to, as I mat on some of this book, I'm going to be putting in some photos so that you can kind of see what it looks like with the photos and without. So here's my original. So this is what this one looks like with just the placeholder. So you would take your 4x6 cards and you would trim them down, and if you have a stamp that says place photo here, I would put that there if you're giving this as a gift. So let me give you the measurement I'm using. I'm using a 2.5 by 2.5 photo. On this, I actually used a 2 1/4 to give me a little bit more of the pattern paper, but when I got to my photos, this worked better for me. So I'm just going to see a little bit less of that pattern paper. So this is my, these pictures are 2.5 years old or so. I've used these pictures in a couple of projects recently. They're just so good. We've got to take some updated family pictures this year. But this is my niece and nephew, Jack and Grace. And I will journal their ages and where we took this sometime during this whole process. So that's cute. And then at the end of this, if you decide, if people was looking at it from this angle, you wanted to do this piece again, you absolutely could. So there you go. Isn't that cute? So that's the two different looks, this one or this one. Oh, and I wanted to tell you, that's from the Action stamp set from May Made It. And I will try to remember to link that for you below. So now we're going to skip on over to page 15. We're going to work our way to the center panel. So this is what we're going to do next. I'm going to do this one. Okay. So this one's easy peasy, but very, very pretty. Nice impact. I love this dark reddish color. So you have got your instructions of how to cut that on the top of 15. Just gonna make sure I cut mine correctly and it fits in the space right. Looks like that. Then in your cut apart sheet, I cut this piece out. And I finally wound up cutting it down to about 4 3/8 by 1 2 3/8. And just used some of my leftover craft cardstock and made a mat for that. And yeah, okay, the craft mat, I do tell you what to cut that down to, the 4 3/4 by 3 3/4 tall. Now I picked this one out because to me, this is a joke, maybe even an inside joke for us Southerners, because it's supposed to be a fall color weather map, so to speak. So it says in late September, you know, this color on the map is when you'd see fall colors all the way up to this color, which is you never see fall colors, and this is exactly where I'm from, which is kind of true. We might have 2 weeks if we're lucky where the trees are absolutely beautiful. So for me, it was so worth using up a panel for this because I relate to it so much. So you could, if you wanted to, you could use the same layout, but not use a cut apart and just put a photo there. It's up to you. Depends on how many photos you want to use. If I did not mention it before, I got 13 photos in mine. What I'm using here, and you'll see before the end of this, I'm going to put 13 photos in there, and there is more room in the pockets. You could leave out some elements like this, because I'm using a whole panel just for decoration. You could use this for a photo, so that would be another one. That would give you a 14. So, go ahead and glue this down. Oh, and another way to personalize this, there are other pocket cards that you can choose from. Just choose the one that speaks to you and cut it out, and then add 1/4 of an inch to the width and 1/4 of an inch to the height, and cut out that piece out of craft cardstock and glue it down. Because there's lots to choose from. You can make anything from one of the smallest to one of the biggest cut aparts will fit here in this panel, and there's some really cute ones. I hate I didn't get to use quite all of them, but you know, you have to be a little choosy because it is about showing off our photos after all. All right, cute and simple. Move on to the next one. So this one, you're going to be able to get almost a full 4x6 photo here. It's 4 by 5 3/4. So I'm going to use one of these to kind of hold my spot, even though it's a little long. But this is where a photo would go here. And then we're going to do our stickers up here. So let me get out what I've got so far. So I already have my photo ready. This is my mom and dad and their 3 grandchildren. There's Grace and Jack again to the left, and my beautiful daughter Caitlin to the right. And the only thing about these photos is they just need to be updated. Well, I can't seem to get the pen in my glue. There we go. So this I want to go here. One other thing that I did not have in the cutting guide is I really think this needs some color behind the stickers. Let me show you the original one more time. When I did this originally, it's fine. This does stand out pretty well, but I really think now if I had it to do over again, and frankly I do, right? I am doing it over again, that I had so much paper that I can absolutely afford to go ahead and put a piece of pattern paper there. So I'm going to do that in this one. I'm going to put a piece of pattern paper there. That's almost a tongue twister. Put a piece of pattern paper there. So let me give you those measurements. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 5/8, yeah. So 1 5/8 by 5 3/4. And this is what this would look like here. Just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Sorry that it's sideways to you. It's just a little easier to work with sometimes. And then I'll turn it back around, let you look at it. So again, if you're giving this as a gift, you may want to consider using those white 4x6 cards, trim them down as needed. You can write on it or stamp on it, place photo here, or just leave them plain. And you may want to consider using some kind of repositional adhesive, like a repositional glue stick or tape runner, that basically just is a little tacky, and they'll be able to pull that off and put their photo there later on. Because if you try to put the photo on over the white, you're going to get a little bit of alligator mouth. It's going to have a little bit too many layers on it. It's not something that you can't do. It's just not something that I would recommend doing. Okay, look how cute so far. All right, I'm going to close this part up. Make it a little easier to work with here. Yeah, that's better. So now what we need to do is we're going to find our sticker sheet. Now we're going to work with this autumn right here. you're going to look in your little kit and you're going to get out your foam squares. Isn't that neat? Did anyone else know they made foam squares like already cut down for you? And they're a little bit thinner than maybe the one I use, Scotty. Or maybe it's just a... No, I guess it is about the same. Maybe it's just an optical illusion. I was thinking it was a little bit thinner than that one. Anyway, sorry, I digress. So what I'm going to do is, of course, all this is on the middle of page 15. I'm going to take each one of these up, and you guessed it, I'm going to hit it with the ink. I'm going to take these pieces and I'm going to cut them into fourths. I'm going to cut them in the center, and I'm going to cut it in the center again to make 4 pieces out of one. Okay, once I get a fourth of a piece, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put this as close to the bottom of the sticker without going over that point. Just like that. I don't want to get into that point, right? But then I've got a big gap at the top of the sticker. That's what I'm looking for, because we're going to put that string there. Okay? So just do that with all your letters. And last time I did this and I got them, you can put them face down because now you got this liner on there. It's not going to stick in the center anyway. And last time I got them all out of order and I wasn't paying attention and I almost glued them down just in the order, not thinking. You know, you get on autopilot sometimes, especially if you're watching TV while you're crafting or on the phone, whatever. And at that point, it's just paper, stickers, not like really letters. And I almost glued them down where it would have been not spelled correctly. I mean, that would have been hysterical. I would never have been able to live that one down. So, like I say, this just happened to fit right on the edge, almost exactly a quarter of that foam tape. This one I got a little too close, so I'm just going to trim it up in the center. All right. I'm just going to keep going until I get them all ready to go. Okay, I've got all my stickers ready to go with the foam tape on there. And I've still got a piece and a half left over. Move that out of the way. So now we need to get our string here. And I'm going to move this to the side for a minute. Get you a scrap piece of paper. This is the one I worked on when I was inking up some of my clothespins. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing here. I'm going to get my distress ink. And this string is a little bit too white for me to go on this project. So I'm just going to vintage it up with Vintage Photo. Not going to put too much on there, but I'm just going to run it through here. Then hit it in a couple of spots in a couple other places. And so that it's not stark white anymore, because I think it's going to really stand out if it's that stark white. So here is an example. Here's one of the tags with that white, and here's the vintagey look, so you can kind of tell a difference there. Okay. Also optional, but I think it's the small things like that that really pay off, these small details. So once again, I'm going to kind of have to finagle this book around so I can get to it easily. So what you want to do is just kind of lay these out. You still got the liner on there from the foam. Lay them out so you kind of see how much room they're going to take up for you. And I'm going to get them more toward the bottom than the top because my string's going to be at the top. So I want these to really be very close to the bottom of this paper strip. So that kind of helps us line them up too, having that paper strip there. That's an unexpected advantage. So you kind of got them lined up the way you know that you want them. Now just grab you a pokey tool or something and take your liner pieces off, and just one by one, just go ahead and glue them into place. And then we're going to come back with our string and finish this little part of it up. Okay, I've got my foam tape glued down here so you can kind of see what this is going to look like. So now it's going to kind of look like a banner that's hanging off some string, so let's do that next. You can tie a knot in your string if you would like. Let me show you the sample. I think this one had a little knot on the end that's frayed on both ends, and see how I'm kind of woven that in and out, up and down, around. So just feel free to be very artistic with it. I don't think I'm going to do a knot this time. I think I'm going to see how this looks. And all I'm going to do is start on the end, leave me some slack. You got plenty of string. Just pull that down under the A till I get kind of what I want. And my little frayed piece right there. And just going to kind of work my way around. And once I get what I like, then I'm going to put some glue behind the letters to kind of hold it in place. But I do want to have a little bit of slack. I want to use some of this string. I want it to kind of look like it's hanging. And I don't want to, you can make it look like it's taut, you know, just got that dip in the center coming up to the top, or you can kind of do it kind of cattywampus like this. Whatever you like to do, whatever you want it to look like. You got plenty of string to work with. To look like this. Yeah, that's cute. That's cute, cute, cute. I got some coming up, some going down, and some coming up to the top. So I'm going to just kind of trim this off, leaving a little bit to work with just in case. I want to pull it down a little bit more. So I'm going to start with my A, and I'm just going to put a dot of glue where that string is going to come down. So I kind of really want to glue that string into place. Doesn't have to be all the way, but you don't want it to come out when people are flipping through your album. You want that to kind of stay in place because, you know, once this comes out, it's going to be very difficult to ever get back around and sit back down and glue it back in or lose it. You know how it goes. Might as well just do it as we go along. Put my rest of my string up in case I want to come back to that for anything else. And then once you get this side done, you might take your pokey tool and just kind of fray the edges. You can hit it with some ink if you'd like to, if you don't think it's dark enough on the edge. Or you can tie a tiny knot in it like I did on the other one. Any of those would be cute. So this is kind of what this one looks like. Yeah, I really like it better with a little bit of pattern paper there. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess in my, I had a weak moment trying to be thrifty, not using so much of my pattern paper. Well, today we've gotten through the top row. These are the ones that were kind of taking the longest because we had to make this and we had to put this here. So there's really not a lot of time-consuming ones left to do the other panels. It's really straight cuts and we already have our pocket made. So I'm going to stop here and we're going to come back on one last day and finish this up. And I hope that you're enjoying this process. I really am enjoying it. It really helps that it's fall. And you know what I'm just seeing? I'm seeing this right here. Again, this gusset. I really think I'm gonna have to put another piece right there on that gusset. But I'm gonna wait until I get the bottom pieces done so I can kind of see what flows here that way. The reason I did not put it on there, if you're wondering the first time why it didn't bother me, the first time I did it, my gusset was smaller. But once I started adding so many layers in here, you know, the first time you make something, you're just kind of guessing. I realized that, yes, I was going to need more room. Because see how this one is a lot bigger than this side? It's kind of got the alligator mouth. If it was an album, you see how it's alligator mouth? So I enlarged it so that this time it will not be. It'll be pretty much straight across. So this didn't bother me because it was a lot smaller. Anyway, so that's just kind of my thinking in case you were wondering. Sometimes I probably give you too much information. But anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me this long, and I hope you're enjoying this process. If you like this video, please hit the like button and come back tomorrow, one last day, same time, same place, and we're going to finish up this mini album. Thanks, guys. Night.